Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brad Demers. I will be your presenter for this segment on the OASIS SB on-ramp solicitation. Before we get started, just a quick background about myself. I've been a contracting officer for a little over 18 years now, going on my 19th year, most of which has been in the professional services arena. My role, I work full-time on the OASIS program side of the house now, and my role includes a variety of roles, utilizing my expertise as a senior contracting officer in the professional services arena. These roles include, but are not limited to, scope reviews, ordering activity, customer training, outreach and consultation, regulatory and case law interpretation, pragmatic FAR compliance strategies, and overall procurement analysis for complex contracting challenges, including SBA regulation compliances under multiple award contract vehicles. Well, that was quite enough out of me. Remember, my name is Brad Demers. I am son of Harrison Hugo Demers, who said to me, "Son, if you want to succeed in life, you must learn how to convey clarity of thought with economy of words." So hopefully I can meet those two goals for us here in this segment. So here we go, folks. Here we go. So the overview on this, remember, we're reopening the solicitation. One of the things that's important about this is not a new solicitation, right? This is reopening of an existing solicitation, and that means that we have not canceled the solicitation. That's the important piece to remember, folks. We have not canceled the solicitation and started a new solicitation. This is a reopening of the solicitation, and it is an amendment of the solicitation. And this we get from the authority of the contract itself. So my segment, I'm going to be talking about the OASIS SB Pools 1, 3, and 4 reopening. Under contract type for OASIS, OASIS SB is a family of multiple award contracts. Now, what this means, folks, is it's not a schedule, right? This is not a schedule contract. We live in FAR 16505 under the OASIS program. It's a multiple award, definite delivery, definite quantity contract. At the order level, it allows for all types of contracts at the task order level, from fixed price, commercial, non-commercial, time material, cost type. The important thing to remember about the OASIS contract is its minimum order limitation. Minimum order limitation for individual task orders is the SAT. And now we're hoping, folks, that by on-ramping more contractors, we will get more activity for some of the smaller dollar thresholds. The average order size currently, our data shows us the average order size under OASIS Unrestricted is 41 million. That's the average value. That's the base in all options. The value of task order, and the average order value under OASIS Small Business is 12 million. Does that mean every order is going to be that? Absolutely not. But we have agencies that have requirements for smaller dollar values, and we don't see a lot of activity competition-wise for that, and that is why one of the reasons we're adding a significant number of contractors under the OASIS Small Business Program to increase the competition and interest in all types of orders under the OASIS program. The authority and the scope for this on-ramp, this is really important, folks. The on-ramp is not something that we just made up and said, okay, we're going to on-ramp contractors. It's going to be a brand new solicitation. The authority, we are bound by the authority in the contract. What does that mean? It means we cannot change any of the original evaluation criteria because, again, the authority to contract comes from the OASIS, the authority to on-ramp comes from the OASIS contract itself. The only major piece we were allowed to change is allowing small business contracting team arrangements to submit an offer in accordance with the statute 15 USC 644Q. Say it 5 times. 15 USC 644 little q in parentheses. That statute, of course, did not exist at the time of the original OASIS contract was awarded. That last piece there, we're going to go over more in depth what the scope of the OASIS contract is, but you can see it involves a wide range of technical areas and disciplines. For the scoring table, M6 section, M6 is what you want to look at for the scoring table. Again, we cannot change any of the evaluation criteria because we are bound by the authority of the contract itself. That's where the on-ramp authority comes from. Here, folks, we're going to go over some of the different technical areas and core disciplines under the OASIS contract. In this section under program management, and it includes all services related to leading, facilitating, and ensuring the strategic planning, implementation, coordination, integration, and evaluation of programmatic activities and administrative systems, a wide range of technical areas. Remember, folks, the key here is include but not limited to, right? These are just examples of the wide range of scope under the OASIS program. Management consulting services includes all services related to the practice of helping organizations to improve their performance, primarily through the analysis of existing organizational problems and development of plans for improvement. You can see the wide-ranging areas again under the management and consulting services area. Scientific services includes all services primarily involved in the application of comprehensive scientific and professional knowledge in planning, conducting, evaluating, and managing fundamental research knowledge enhancement and or technology development and innovation. Engineering services includes any service or creative work, the adequate performance of which requires education, training, and experience in the application of special knowledge in consulting, investigating, evaluating, planning, and designing engineering principles. Engineering services, this is an important piece, folks. Engineering services covered by the Brooks Act are not covered in the primary scope of OASIS. Once we step into FAR Part 36, we have stepped out of the scope of OASIS. However, this is a big comma, we can do construction management services under the OASIS program. The eyes and the ears of the government for a construction project. We absolutely can use architects and engineers for that under the OASIS program. An example of where we cross the line is an architect or engineer stamping a drawing, certifying a drawing. Now we've stepped into the realm of FAR Part 36, and of course that would be covered under the Brooks Act, and that would then be out of scope for OASIS. Next slide here. Sorry folks, I got a couple different slides going because I have some speaker notes. I can't memorize everything. I wish I could. Next one's logistics services. Includes the management of the flow of resources, not only goods between the point of origin and the point of destination in order to meet the requirements of organizations. Logistics services involves the integration of information, transportation, inventory, warehousing, material handling, packaging, security, and any function necessary to the flow of resources. So that is a mouthful under logistic services. Next one, financial management services, includes planning, directing, monitoring, organization, and controlling of the monetary resources of an organization. Next slide here, slide number 32. Slide number 32. This is an important slide, and for that, folks, we need to look at section C.3 of the contract. Remember, when OASIS was born, think of those omnibus statements of work, and everything invariably nowadays involves some form of IT. So think of these omnibus statements of work. It has heavy IT in it, but it's not exactly an IT requirement. That is why OASIS was born. OASIS was born to handle these complex services that include IT, that exist in a wide range of technical areas. You're scratching your head, you're looking at this statement of work, this requirement, you don't know which contract vehicle it fits under. It has some IT, it has logistics, has engineering, systems engineering, weapons engineering, and you cannot figure out where this belongs. That's why OASIS was born. So it does include heavy IT. In fact, there's a section there's a paragraph in section C3 of the contract that includes, non-IT includes any equipment or services related to a national security system. That means it's non-IT for the scope of OASIS. National security system means telecommunications or information systems operated by the federal government, the function, operation, or use of which involves intelligence activities, cryptologic activities related to national security, command and control of military forces, equipment that is an integral part of a weapons system or systems, or critical to the direct fulfillment of military or intelligence missions. Now, this does not include a system to be used for routine administrative and business applications. And what's important to note about all this, when you see non-IT, even though it's IT work, it is non-IT. What I just read is non-IT for the purposes of the OASIS contract, and therefore the non-IT professional services are considered to be within the primary scope of OASIS. So that is one important piece to remember about IT services at the order level. Place of performance, worldwide. In fact, although we don't have points for it, wish we could, but again, we cannot change the evaluation criteria. But we've been experiencing a lack of interest in OCONUS requirements, so we would, although we cannot score you higher, you don't get any extra points for it, we would love to have contractors who operate in the OCONUS arena. That would be good for the government if we were able to get contractors who have experience in the OCONUS arena. Period of performance. Period of performance operates through 19 December 2024. That's under the OASIS Small Business Program, 19 December 2024. Task orders can be issued up until that day. When we talk about the OASIS contract, we don't talk about period of performance under the OASIS contract. We talk about ordering period, because the period of performance happens at the task order level. That's the period of performance. So for OASIS, we have a 5-year base ordering period and a 5-year option ordering period. That option period, the final second option 5-year period, ends 19 December 2024. So a task order can be issued up until that day and can exist with its options. The task order with its options can be exercised up to 5 years after the OASIS ordering period ends. Some of the roles and responsibilities on slide 34 now. The roles and responsibilities, we have OASIS Program Manager, course contracting officers, and the ombudsman. The ombudsman handles complaints from contractors. We haven't had that happen thus far under the contract. Now, the one thing I want to point out here is industrial operations analyst. That's a GSA function, and what they do is they come out and they ensure that you have paid your contract access fee. They look at your books to make sure that all your task orders have been reported, that kind of thing. If anyone has a schedule contract, then they are definitely familiar with industrial operations analysts. So we do have those that help us out for the OASIS program as well. Some of the roles and responsibilities for the ordering contracting officer. Now, unlike the schedules program, in order to issue an order, in order to sign an order under OASIS, the ordering contracting officer has to have a delegation of procurement authority. They have to have DPA training. And they have to be, of course, a warranted contracting officer and be certified. And that's one of the roles I have is I go out to agencies and give this delegation of procurement authority training. And also, good news, we just had it uploaded to the Defense Acquisition University, so contracting officers can now get their delegation of procurement authority training on demand 24/7 through the continuous learning module. That's FAC 152, FAC space 152. That is the new continuous learning module for delegation of procurement authority training. Some of the ordering contracting officer duties are the typical duties that you see here, and that is, I won't have to go over that. That's pretty basic information, what the ordering contracting officer does. For the contractor, you need to have a corporate OASIS program manager, a COPM, and a contract manager, a COCM, and they shall be designated at the contract level. And it's important that you understand you can't bill us for that, right? That's not something that you can bill us for. You can't bill the government for managing your IDIQ contract. So most people understand that, but I wanted to point that important piece out. And some of the, hold on a second here. Yes, I think I covered everything on that slide. Next slide, slide 37, the contract access fee. Now, unlike the schedules program, because the schedules are priced, and the schedules are priced, and that's a GSA Federal Supply Schedule. They are priced, and the industrial funding fee, they call it under that, is buried in the price. The agency doesn't see it as a separate line item. You never bill your industrial funding fee under the schedules program in a separate line item, because for all intents and purposes that we will learn later, the OASIS contracts are unpriced. You must submit a contract access fee CLIN with your proposal at the order level. And honestly, folks, the easiest way to handle this, and this is what I teach agencies, ensure that you have a CAF CLIN, ensure it's a not to exceed CLIN unless the entire order is firm fixed price. Even then, I would build it as a not to exceed CLIN, because things can change, they can be modified, orders can be modified. Here's the important part for you contractors. On every invoice, please bill the CAF. Bill the contract access fee on every invoice, unless, of course, otherwise instructed by your ordering contracting officer. But the last thing we want to do is chase down CAF, chase you down and hound you for CAF, Of course, if you don't pay your CAF and there's problems and you cause administrative burden due to the CAF, that's one reason why you can be put in a dormant status. Those in a dormant status are unable to submit offers on any new orders that come out. So anyway, it's very important, folks, that you have a CAF CLIN in your proposals at the order level. Some of the reporting requirements that you must do, and this is where you submit and report your CAF. It's called the Contract Payment Reporting Module, and you will learn all about that when you get an award, right? When you get an award, you will learn all about the Contract Payment Reporting Module. Now, there's one piece on here that's really important. It's really important to note that the limitation on subcontracting, because remember, folks, if you get an award under this, you're under OASIS Small Business. The limitation of subcontracting FAR 52.2.19.14 automatically kicks in. It automatically kicks in. However, that is managed by the OASIS SB contracting officer at the OASIS SB contract level, not on a per order basis, unless, unless optionally mandated by the ordering contracting officer. When I teach my DPA courses, I tell them, why would you want to take on that administrative burden? It's your choice. You can do that. But we on the OASIS contract default to the SBA regulations, and we manage the limitation of subcontracting on an aggregate level across all orders from an aggregate perspective during the 5-year period. Another important piece, we have incorporated the similarly situated language from the SBA regulations 13 CFR 125.6. Say it 5 times. 13 CFR 125.6. Similarly situated. What does that mean? That means if you're a small business and you subcontract to another small business, we're talking at the order level now, and you subcontract to another small business, it doesn't count because they are similarly situated. They're another small business. That doesn't count against your limitation of subcontracting. Anyway, important piece about limitation of subcontracting as it relates to the reporting. Next slide, subcontracting plan. You can choose to have a subcontracting plan or not. In the past, small businesses have chosen to have a subcontracting plan because that gave them points to be able to vertically on-ramp to OASIS Unrestricted. I won't get into all that right here, but there are some advantages of that. There were in the past anyway. If we have another vertical on-ramp, that means a contractor who graduates from small business, they vertically on-ramp, and we had that in the past, and that's why people have chosen to have a subcontracting plan, because they can get points for meeting subcontracting plans. So that is, of course, a choice for that. It is not required to have a subcontracting plan. Next slide here. Performance assessments. That we look to section G3.4 of the OASIS contract. And one thing it's important to note, folks, excuse me, is that the CPARS are done on orders, not the IDIQ contract itself. Not the IDIQ contract itself. It's important to employ the SNATA principle. What is the SNATA principle? Strategic non-value-added task avoidance. There's no, what are you going to report at the contract level? There's no dollars associated with it. There's no performance associated with the IDIQ contract. Therefore, we employ the SNATA principle, and we do not do CPARS at the IDIQ contract level. Those are done at the order level. So it's key to remember that piece. Contractor self-assessments, you're required to submit those annually, and that, again, you can see all the details of that in the contract itself. Slide number 41 we're on now, insurance. That you look to Section G.35, Section G.35 of the contract. Those are, it's standard insurance that's required by the Federal Acquisition Regulations, mergers, acquisitions, and novations. You will become a very successful company, and someone will want to buy you, or you want to buy another company. Keep in mind, folks, when this happens, either a merger, acquisition, or novation, not a name change. Name change doesn't affect anything. It's just a name change. But if you have a merger, acquisition, or novation, either you buy someone or someone buys you. What happens? That triggers a size re-representation in accordance with FOD 52-219-28. What that means is you have to re-represent your size. And what happens when you do that, if whoever you bought or whoever bought you and their affiliates, you have to count the receipts if it's a dollar size pool you're in, or the number of employees if it's a number of employees size standard pool you're in. And if you become other than large after that size representation, guess what? You are put in dormant status. You're automatically put in dormant status. You can no longer submit offers on any new work, because OASIS Small Business is for OASIS small businesses. We want the agency to always get credit for their orders under the OASIS Small Business Program. So to keep the integrity of the OASIS Small Business Program, whenever there's a size representation required in accordance with 52-219-28, and you have to re-represent your size, and you get put in dormant status if your size is represented as other than small. Now, that doesn't mean when your size changes, in SAM, if you're small today and you're large tomorrow, it only means if you have to re-represent in accordance with FAR 52-219-28 triggers. And merger acquisition is an automatic trigger. Sorry, I didn't exemplify clarity of thought with economy of words on that slide, but I think that's an important slide to remember. Important points to make. That last bullet point, selling contract not permissible, transfer of all the assets, is legally complicated, but you have to talk to your attorneys about that. It is not the norm, right? It's not the norm. Next slide, slide 43. Special contract requirements. This just describes the standard federal holidays. No need to explain that. Next slide. Set-asides based on socioeconomic group. Under the OASIS Small Business Program, we allow agencies to set aside for specific socioeconomic groups. For example, under Pool 1, if the agency wanted to do a service-disabled veteran-owned set-aside, that is allowable. And only SDV OSBs would compete on such a socioeconomic set-aside. And that is in line with the Fair Opportunity Requirements, Exception F. No justification and approval needed. When I say Section F, it's in 16505B. I can't remember. I should remember that. But anyway, it's in the FAR, and the ordering contracting officer can set aside for socioeconomic status, businesses with socioeconomic status. However, there has to be at least two. You can't set it aside if you know there's only one. For example, hub zone. If there's only one hub zone in the pool, can you set it aside? No, you can't, because there isn't two. So to ensure competition, what we do at the what we do at the contract level is we ensure there are at least three of each one of those socioeconomic categories. So If, for example, we under Pool 1, we're adding 190 contractors, you can see those numbers under Section L.2.6 of the OASIS solicitation. We're adding 190. So if we added 190 and only 2 of those were hub zone, for example, so we awarded to 190 and only 2 were hub zone, we can go to 191 and the next highest rated hub zone, so we can expand the anticipated number of awards based on socioeconomic representation. And that you can see in Section M.3, Section M.3H for examples of what I just talked about there. So yes, we can set aside for socioeconomic categories at the order level. It's all about the NAICS, folks. Slide 45, it's all about the NAICS. Government contracting is all about NAICS. What do I mean by that? Remember when I first talked about OASIS, I talked about how OASIS involves complex services that cover a wide range of different technical areas and different disciplines. And that invariably involves a wide range of NAICS codes. What do we do? What do we do? When we see a wide range of NAICS codes, the contracting officer has to pick the NAICS code that represents the principal purpose of the requirement. And that is why OASIS has the various pools. That's why it has the pools. And for us, what we're dealing with right now is pools 1, 3, and 4. Pools 1, 3, and 4. They are different and separate and distinct multiple award contracts, and the reason for that is due to systems. Because we cannot have our current government systems do not allow for more than one size per contract, more than one size standard per contract. We had to have separate multiple award contracts. That second bullet point there is important. The OCO shall only apply the OASIS SB pool NAICS code and corresponding size standard representing the principal purpose of the requirement. Principal purpose of the requirement. When you're faced with more than one NAICS code, use the one that represents the principal purpose of the requirement. Here's a picture, folks, that's going to make a lot more sense. A lot more sense. Each one of these pools is a separate and distinct multiple award contract. Pool 1 is our most popular pool. Why? Because it has the most variety of NAICS codes. And what do you see here? What do you see? What's the common theme? Each one of these pools that has more than one NAICS code or more than one exception, SBA did that to us. For example, engineering services is a $15 million size standard, but exception A for military engineering is a $38.5 million size standard. So that couldn't be. We couldn't have exception A in pool 1 because it's a different size standard. So all of these NAICS codes that you see in the pool, they all share the exact same size standard of the pool that they're in. Then the next question we get a lot is, well, I have a NAICS code that's not in one of these. Can I use OASIS? Absolutely not. Remember, when I started this NAICS business out, it's all about the NAICS code under OASIS. Everything is NAICS, and MAICS is everything. If the NAICS code, if the primary purpose of the requirement, the principal purpose of the requirement does not fit in one of these NAICS codes, it does not fit within the scope of OASIS. However, NAICS code choice is magically, you won't believe I'm telling you this, it's subjective. Wow. In fact, there was a GAO study on it. If you Google GAO NAICS study, if you Google that, you'll find GAO did a study on NAICS codes, and you can read all about that study. Anyway, folks, again, it's all about the NAICS codes. Each one of these pools is a separate and distinct multiple award contract under the OASIS program. Now let's get into some of the things that are mandatory, some important pieces that are mandatory to get an OASIS to be considered for an OASIS award. One of them is an acceptable accounting system. For that, we look to sections H.6.1 and L.5.1.7, an acceptable accounting system, folks. And it does not have to be audited by DCAA, but it has to be ready, right? It has to be ready. Anyway, again, read those sections that talk about an acceptable accounting system. That is a mandatory piece for you to be considered for award. And why is that? Why is that? Because OASIS allows for both non-commercial time and material and cost type contracts. We want every contractor having the ability to do that. Otherwise, we'd have to have this convoluted list of contractors that says, oh, well, this one, this set of folks can do only firm fixed price orders. This set of folks, number one, that would be highly confusing to our customers. And number two, we can't do that. Why? Because remember, folks, we live under the authority, our on-ramp comes from the authority of the OASIS contract. And because of that, we cannot deviate from the original OASIS evaluation criteria and minimum requirements. We can't deviate from that. And one of these is acceptable accounting system. So that's the main reason we cannot deviate. And of course, I just explained why we had to have an accounting system. Now, all other systems that I'm going to talk about are optional. What do I mean by optional? They're scored. They're scored. So the systems, right, all of the systems and certifications, security clearance, that kind of thing, those are under scored elements, and they represent 20% of the scored elements. Under the OASIS program, the evaluation criteria, 40% is experience, 40% is past performance, and 20% is systems, clearances, and certifications. I'll go through some of these very quickly. I won't spend a whole lot of time on these because you can read all about them in the solicitation itself. Acceptable estimating systems. Acceptable estimating systems includes policies, procedures, and practices for budgeting and planning controls and generating estimates of costs and other data included in proposals and the expectation of receiving contract awards. You can read all about that in section H6.2 and section L5.5.4 of the solicitation. Now, it's important, folks, about these systems. If you receive credit and a scored credit for this system, you need to maintain that through the life of your contract. And that last bullet point there, the contractor shall notify the OASIS SB CO and designated OCO for effected task orders in writing any changes in the status of their estimating system and provide reasons for the change and copies of audit reports, so on and so forth as practicable. So you can't get a scored element and then lose it, right? That can subject you to being put in dormant status. So please remember that. Forward pricing rate agreements, that we look to section H6.4 and L5.5.2. Now, folks, although this is an optional scored element, contractors without these agreements will cause pain for the ordering officer, right? Because the ordering officer without forward pricing rate agreements in place causes administrative burden and difficulties for cost type orders, because then they have to figure out the auditing and do all that at the task order level. It's best if that has been done prior to prior to that. Anyway, next one, slide. Oh, I'm sorry. I was on slide. Just got done describing this slide, slide 50. It's important to have these, folks, although it's an optional scored element. Very important. Okay, folks, we are on slide 51. And slide 51 has to do with approved purchasing systems. For that, we looked at section H65 and L551. Again, it is optional. It's a scored element. But this is an important one to have. The benefit of having an approved purchasing system is that advanced subcontracting consent in FAR subpart 44.2 may not be required. And when I say may not be required, it is, of course, at the discretion of the ordering contracting officer, but it helps a lot if there is an approved purchasing system. So contractors with that are highly encouraged to get that scored element. Next one, slide 52, earned value management system. For that, we looked at section H66 and L553. This project, it's a project management tool, effectively integrates the project scope of work with cost, schedule, and performance elements for optimum project planning and control. Again, on all of these system slides, you need to notify us, right? You need to notify the OASIS SB CO for any affected task orders, for any changes in any of these systems that you received a scored element under, and ultimately that got you an award. ISO 9000 certification. Again, this is another certification. This is where I'm going to save some time, folks, because I don't need to really go over all of these certifications. They're pretty self-explanatory. Next slide, 55. That's ISO 4001 certification. Next one is AS9100 certification. Then we got CMMI maturity level certifications. Next one is slide 58, security clearances. For that, we looked at section H.7, and the ordering contracting officer can absolutely require security clearances at the order level. In fact, there was a GAO case on this. It was protested for unduly restrictive, and the government had justified why it needed the security clearances with the offer. With facilities, a facility security clearance, it needed that for both the prime and the sub that was being proposed, and it was protested as being unduly restrictive, but the government prevailed, again, because it had a justification as to why it needed the security clearance. Thus, it is having security clearances, at least facility security clearances, excuse me, is a scored element. So for facility clearance level, we looked to section H71 and L550. In fact, folks, security clearances are a great selling feature of the OASIS program. We deal with Department of Defense and intelligence activities. They want to ensure that our contractors are cleared. In fact, we're working on a list right now to put that out on our website that shows which contractors have facility clearances and what level, whether it's secret or top secret. And that is definitely a selling feature of the OASIS program. Some ordering activities won't use the OASIS contract vehicle if there are not an adequate number of contractors with facility clearance level clearances. And that's why it is a scored element. Next slide here. Sorry, I was talking about facility clearance levels. I apologize, folks. That's the slide I was just talking about. Next one is on employee security clearances. There are a lot of requirements to come out that need people with security clearances on it. So if you have personnel, although this is not a scored element, the facility clearance level is a scored element. It will definitely help you at the order level to have personnel that have security clearance levels, because again, it can be required for orders under the OASIS program. Next slide, 61, meaningful relationship commitment letters. MRCLs is what I call them. And for that, folks, this is an important piece. We look, I mean, they're all important, but especially this one. We look to section L519, L519 for this in the solicitation. The government will allow an offeror to take credit for any project, system, certification, and or facility clearance from a parent company, affiliate, division, and or subsidiary, and this is important, within a corporate structure. In the corporate structure, because the term affiliate can mean different things under SBA regulations, but for the purposes of the OASIS program, your affiliate has to be within your corporate structure. Think of an affiliate as a division within the corporate structure. So we'll allow you to take credit for these things from your parent companies or divisions so long as there is a meaningful relationship to the offerer and a formal commitment letter is provided. And that is what a MRCL is, a meaningful relationship commitment letter. Please, folks, it's important. Do not misconstrue a MRCL for a CTA agreement. Do not misconstrue a MRCL for a contractor teaming arrangement agreement. Just like a chipmunk is not a cinder block, a MRCL is not a CTA agreement. For CTA agreements, contractor teaming arrangement agreements, we look to section L.5.1.10. We will discuss that later. So anyway, folks, again, section L519 for MRCLs, and they are not contractor teaming arrangement agreements. Keep that in mind. People confuse that a lot. Sustainability, for that we look to section H.8. We only have one Mother Earth, and we all want to be good to our mother. So we all share the same mother, Mother Earth. Therefore, OASIS program promotes sustainability. In fact, you may have those requirements at the order level. You may have requirements wherein an ordering contracting officer may have evaluation criteria to distinguish between offers where contractors are practicing sustainability efforts in their own business. And I've seen that before, folks. So again, section H.8 for the OASIS Small Business Program that promotes sustainability. Ethics and conduct, slide 63. Personal services, of course, are not authorized under OASIS SB. Contractor and its employees must conduct themselves with the highest degree of integrity and honesty. And of course, the contractor must adhere to the policies and procedures as specified in FAR Part 3 and GSAM Part 503, improper business practices and personal conflicts of interest. And it's important, folks, failure to adhere to proper ethics and conduct may result in activation of dormant status and or result in being off-ramped. Slide 64, conflict of interest, all the guidelines in FAR Part 3. You know, basically, one of the key violations of a conflict of interest is no bidding on the sow you helped create. That's one of the classic areas I've seen protested and sustained, where the contractor put an offer on the statement of work it helped create. Because remember, in the OASIS program, you can contract for acquisition support. That's one of the areas. NAICS 541611. Contract for acquisition support, and if you're the contractor who helped create statement of work, you can't bid on it. That would be a direct violation of the conflict of interest regulations. So make sure, folks, that you're not in that scenario. Be cognizant of violating conflicts of interest. Next slide, conflict of interest. That's again in section H13.3. Things to keep in mind: if a potential conflict of interest occurs, the contractor shall immediately notify the ordering contracting officer of the conflict, submit a plan for mitigation, and not begin work until specifically notified by the OCO to proceed. So please, folks, that's one way to quickly go from active contractor to dormant status, is to violate conflicts of interest prohibitions. Next slide, dormant status. That's not where we want to be. Don't want to be in a dormant status. And remember, folks, when I talked about previously mergers, acquisitions, and novations, that automatically triggers a size representation in accordance with FAR 52.2.19.28. I'm restating that because it's important. That will put you in automatic dormant status. Now, all of these other reasons you see on this slide, because we have because of the evaluation criteria under OASIS, we only hire the best of the best. And when I say hire, I mean award, right? We only award to the best contractors. That's why one of the reasons why OASIS is a best-in-class contract. So none of these other reasons you see under here have occurred. We haven't had contractors who are poor performers that have resulted in them being put in a dormant status. And we're hoping that that will also be the case. It will be the case, right? Because we are only awarding to the best of the best contractors, and there are lots of you out there. Off-ramping. GSA reserves the unilateral right to off-ramp non-performing contractors. For that, we look to section H.17 of the OASIS contract. What does off-ramping mean? It's not a termination for cause, not a termination for convenience. You're simply off-ramped when your ordering period expires and you don't have any other task orders underneath that you need to complete. That would be one reason to be off-ramped. So you can see on here there's a variety of reasons that a contractor can be off-ramped. Next slide. Instructions, conditions, and notices. It is critically important, folks, critically important to follow all the instructions and submit your best offer with all the required documents to substantiate your score. There are no second chances under OASIS, as the government intends to award without discussions. Thus, there are no chances for proposal revisions. OASIS program, the evaluation method, it's called the highest technically rated with a fair and reasonable price method. That does not entail trade-offs. There's no trade-offs under the OASIS best value method. We score you, you score yourself, we validate your score. The top X win, and all those who tie with number X for Pool 1's top 190, and all those who tie with 190, and notwithstanding additional awards for lacking socioeconomic status, we will award more for those. I explained that earlier. But other than that, folks, it's that simple. We don't document strengths and weaknesses. It's not a typical best value trade-off scenario wherein we hold discussions or build competitive ranges and then hold discussions and ask for final proposal revisions. That is not how the OASIS program works. You get one shot. So please, folks, please, I've seen contractors missing key documents. It's just a simple mistake they made. And because of the evaluation criteria, again, we cannot change it. We cannot change it from the original OASIS contract award. The original OASIS contract solicitation. We get our authority for on-ramping from the OASIS contract. Cannot change the evaluation criteria. And it was set up that way to ensure that everyone is treated fairly. And there is no room for revising your documents that substantiate either the minimum requirements or your score. So please, folks, it's very important that you have all of your documents very well organized and you make it easy for the evaluators to validate your score. Make it easy for the evaluators to verify your score. Please do that. I plead with you to ensure that you do that. I can't emphasize that enough, how important it is for your offer to be organized and do not make mistakes and having missing documentation. In fact, I was the technical chair on the HCATS, Human Capital and Training Solutions, when that solicitation was completed. And a contractor was missing documentation that showed that a modification had been fully executed. They were missing a signed piece of paper, and that caused them to be ineligible for award because, again, we have to adhere to the strict requirements of the solicitation. We cannot stray from the requirements of solicitation. So please, folks, please remember to do that. I'm sorry that I keep repeating myself like a broken record, but it's very, very important that you adhere to the solicitation instructions. Next slide. This one, again, goes over the instructions, conditions, and notices. One of the key pieces for all pool qualification, primary and secondary projects must have been performed by the offeror, okay? It must have been performed by the offeror. If you were a subcontractor to a project, that does not count. Do not count subcontract projects. So all of remember, folks, 80% of the points comes from experience, past performance. So the projects are key to getting an award on the OASIS contract. And all of them must be performed by the offeror unless what? You have a MRCL, or meaningful relationship commitment letter with one of your divisions, or if the offer is from a contractor team arrangement, then you can use the pool qualifications and so on from one of your contractor teaming arrangement members, and that is detailed in the solicitation. And here's another one, folks. Here's another one that people get confused about a lot. Federal supply schedule contractor teaming arrangements are not from the FAR. Federal supply schedule contractor teaming arrangements, when you form a CTA, if you're a schedule holder and you had a CTA formed and you were another CTA member, you have leads and you have members. But here's the key with a federal supply schedule contractor teaming arrangement. The key is that the government has privity of contract with each one of those, so you can use that experience, even if you were not the lead, provided that it was an official Federal Supply Schedule contractor teaming arrangement. It is not a FAR 9601 paragraph 2 prime sub CTA. That is not what a Federal Supply Schedule contractor teaming arrangement is. So you can use that for some of your pool qualification and projects. Instructions, conditions, and notices. It is critically important. Critically important. This is a major change from the solicitation that closed November 13, 2018. One of the major changes is in Section L2, Paragraph L. Section L2, Paragraph L. You can only have one project for the same pool per offer. So be careful, folks, when you form contractor teaming arrangements. If you're going to form contractor teaming arrangements to maximize your points, or you're going to form a joint venture, it is critically important that you know your team members and that they are not submitting the same project on another offer. We do not prohibit cross-teaming at the contract level. We do not prohibit cross-teaming. However, we do prohibit you to use the same project across two different offers. Same project for the same pool across two different offers. If we find that, then both of those offers will have that project removed. And if it's a pool qualification project, for example, remember that's a minimum requirement. That's not a scored requirement. A pool qualification, the two pool qualification projects are required. They're required. And if that's one of the projects, for example, Pool 1, Offer A, has used a project and from a CTA member or prime, and either that CTA member or the prime is a CTA member on another different offer, and that same project is used, both of those offers would be rejected because they would fail to meet the minimum pool qualification requirement for that project. So do you see how critically important it is to ensure your team member is not using a project under the same pool under a different offer? So please make sure you know your team members and that they are not doing that. Next one, solicitation questions. Before asking a solicitation question, folks, please read the entire solicitation. I know that it's a tendency when you read the solicitation, you go, I don't understand this. What does this mean? You instantly want to ask a question, but read the entire solicitation, take a break, read it again. What are the three rules of contracting? And they can be applied to the solicitation. What are the three rules? Read the solicitation. 1, rule number 2, read the solicitation. Rule number 3, read the fantastic solicitation, right? Those are the 3 rules of solicitations. So please, folks, read the solicitation carefully. And when you're asking questions, it drives me crazy trying to figure out what you mean, where you are talking about. Not only include the page number, but it's critically important that you specify the exact page number and especially the solicitation section and paragraph number. Be very explicit on what you're asking about. Be very explicit and what it pertains to. And it is also why I see this mistake a lot. People have their questions and they get them answered and they only concentrate on the questions they ask. So they read through the Q&A and they don't really, it doesn't come to their mind to pay attention. They're looking at questions and they go, I don't know what they're asking. Oh, here's mine. And so they look at theirs. Oh, it's answered. Great. I'm satisfied. But read all of the Q&A and digest all of the Q&A. So please remember to do that. That's a mistake I've seen offers make, is not reading all of the questions and answers, because the answers will be provided in the solicitation. Next slide, 72. Symphony online proposal systems. Now this has to do with questions regarding the Symphony system, and those you can submit to that client.support@apexlogic.com. So let me go back a minute, folks. The solicitation, one of the things I failed to emphasize is the solicitation questions must be submitted by May 10th. Of course, when you hear this recording, it'll be after May 10th, because it's May 10th today when I'm giving this recording. But this is important that you pay attention to the written solicitation. The written solicitation and when the questions are due. So please pay attention to that. The next slide is questions must be submitted by June 17th for the Symphony online proposal system. Again, folks, this is that I really want to emphasize to pay attention to the solicitation. One of the things I failed to do when I started my segment is that please, folks, please ensure that you understand that nothing, right? Keep in mind that the information I presented is for information purposes only, and anything I state or omit shall not be misconstrued as a substitute for the official written solicitation published on FBO. So please keep that in mind. That is something that I should have stated at the very beginning of my segment. So we're on the home stretch here, folks. Protests, lovely protests. They're often inevitable, unfortunately, under these large government-wide contract vehicles. We would love it if we did not have any protests, but it's your right to protest. And of course, that we look to FAR 33.101, and you can protest. You can file a protest either directly with the agency, or you can file with the GAO and other venues as described in FAR 33.1. Next slide, the official legal entity. What do we mean by the official legal entity? The official legal entity is the offeror, So who is that? Under a contractor teaming arrangement of FAR 96011 contractor teaming arrangement, the offeror would be the joint venture itself. Remember, that's a legal entity, folks. The joint venture itself. Under a FAR 96012 CTA, that's a prime sub-CTA. So that would be the prime contractor itself. So make sure you have all your ducks in a row for the legal entity that is submitting the offer. Make sure that you have the right cage codes and DUNS numbers for that legal entity. The exception there at the bottom is when a contract is modified to recognize a successor in interest, due to a merger, acquisition, or novation. So just to recap, the official legal entity is the offeror. For a joint venture CTA, it would be the legal entity, the joint venture itself. And for a prime sub-CTA, that's for first-tier subcontractors, the prime contractor would be the official legal entity. Proposal requirements, minimum proposal requirements. see that in volumes 1 for the general proposal requirements. One thing, folks, to remember here about the pool qualification projects. The pool qualification projects. There's 2, right? You have to have 2. Key points of this is that each project must be a federal government project, and it must have been awarded with the NAICS or product service code assigned to the corresponding pool, and that you can see what the NAICS and PSC codes are in the solicitation. So that's very important, folks. And we have seen people fail because they submitted projects that don't have it clearly identified. The supporting documentation, remember, it's all about the evidence that you provide us. The supporting documentation, if it doesn't clearly show that the NAICS or PSC code, that's a big powerful or, because a lot of times what happens, for example, under an ID, a government-wide or an agency-wide IDIQ contract. If that agency-wide IDIQ contract, generally speaking, they have to pick one NAICS code. So they figure out, okay, we think the preponderance of work will go under this NAICS code. But in fact, the work being done is under a different NAICS code. And you're presenting this project going, the work absolutely fell under this NAICS code, but because of government systems, the order always defaults to the parent IDIQ contract. And therefore, I cannot substantiate an offer under the pool I'm offering under, because my work was under a different NAICS code. However, at the order level, the ordering contracting officer can choose. That's one choice they have. They can choose PSC code. And we have other avenues if there was a mistake in the NAICS code, and we have other avenues detailed in the solicitation, which the ordering contracting officer can submit documentation stating that the NAICS code was wrong. I won't get into all those details. They're detailed in the solicitation as regards to that. But anyway, that's the power of or there. It's NAICS or PSC code. So please keep that in mind to give you some flexibility as it relates to substantiating evidence of performance under the pool qualification projects. Next slide here, proposal requirements, contractor teaming arrangements. It's very important, folks. It's very important if you are coming in under a contractor teaming arrangement. That's either a FAR 96011, which is the joint venture, or FAR 96012, a prime with first tier subs. Please make sure you read section L.5.1.10. Say it 5 times, section L.5.1.10. It's very important you read that section. One of the pieces that was protested that we, in fact, won was L.5.10.D2. If you look at that section of the solicitation, you will see that if you are submitting an offer as a mentor under a mentor-protege joint venture, and the mentor is a large business, then you are limited in the projects that you can submit. For any approved mentor-protege joint ventures, where the mentor is not a small business under the Apple size standard, that mentor may submit a maximum of 1 pool qualification project as defined in L512, a maximum of 2 relevant experience primary projects as defined in L531 and a maximum of 2 relevant experience secondary projects. So read, I was reading right off the solicitation. It's very important that you read that piece of the solicitation if you're coming in as a contractor teaming arrangement. Next slide. Slide 77, responsibility. We have to, of course, the FAR Part 9. This is one of the selling points, folks. One of the selling points of our OASIS contracts, any IDIQ contract, the selling point is that we must, all ordering contracting officers must ensure that we have, that they do a responsibility determination on a contractor. And we have done that for you. We've done that for you at the contract level. That's a selling point. So that's why we have to do that, because then the contracting officer at the order level does not need to do the responsibility determination. Next slide, slide 78. Proposal requirements, relevant experience projects for primary projects. The offer shall submit a minimum of 3, and a maximum of 5 distinct primary relevant experience projects. Must involve performance and or integration of at least 3 out of the 6 OASIS SB core disciplines. Now this, folks, is one of the pieces that you need to ensure you show us. And you can show that via sticky notes on a PDF. You can show the statement of work and other documentation from the order. You can show us, here's where the work that I have done here, here's where it demonstrates the core disciplines under the OASIS solicitation. Any combination of federal, state, international, public sector, and non-federal government commercial projects can be submitted. And remember, folks, we are in the scored evaluation piece. We're in the scored evaluation piece. We're not in the minimum pool qualification requirements. We're in the scored evaluation pieces here. And remember, it's important that a subcontract is not a commercial project. Do not count subcontracts. If you were a subcontractor, that does not count as a relevant experience project. Some of the bullet points under there about what a primary relevant experience awarded by the federal government must be a standalone contract, a task order under a single award or multiple award IDIQ contract, a task order under a GSA multiple award schedule, a task order awarded against a single award or multiple award blanket purchase agreement, or awards issued via an other transactional authority. And that last one there, second to last one primary representative experience project, relevant experience project may be a collection of task orders, and that is detailed in the solicitation. What that means is you can take a collection of task orders issued under a single award IDIQ BPA, and you can add them up, and it describes in detail in the solicitation how you would do that. And so that can help you maximize points by using a collection of task orders and you can only do that for one of your projects. Just remember, folks, if you're coming in with a contractor teaming arrangement, same thing applies. You can't use the same projects for one offer under both offers for the same pool. Next slide, 79. How are we doing for time? As usual, I have not lived my daddy's mantra to convey clarity of thought with economy of words. That's okay, folks. That's okay. At least I'm being thorough. At least I believe that I am. Volume 3, continued relevant experience projects for secondary projects. Offers shall submit a minimum of 2 and maximum of 5 distinct secondary projects with mission spaces. You can read all about that in the solicitation, what secondary projects pertain to. I won't go over that here at this time because it is detailed in the solicitation. Next one, proposal requirements, past performance. Volume 4 gets into past performance. It details in the solicitation how those scoring is calculated. And of course, the final one is Volume 5, system certifications and clearances. And we had gone over that previously. It's important to note that all approved system certification clearances must be maintained at the current level and at time of award. And it's important, folks, for contractor teaming arrangements to read section L.5.1.10 thoroughly, right? You need to read those thoroughly. With one of the pieces is, with the exception as it relates to these systems and certifications, with the exceptions of joint ventures, the official legal entity must have an acceptable accounting system, and all the evaluation criteria under L.5.5, that's the volume 5 there, the system certifications, all individual members of the CTA must have the scoring, must have those elements. Scoring will only be awarded at the levels met or exceeded by all members of the existing partnership or joint venture, or by the offeror, i.e. the joint venture itself. So if the joint venture itself had these certifications, or the prime small business contractor. So it's either or, either the joint venture itself or the prime small business contractor, or all members. All members have to have the certifications in order to get the points. So again, read that section carefully if you are coming in as a contractor teaming arrangement. Price. Price, folks, is simple under the OASIS contract. Price is go, no go. Remember, the evaluation criteria is not a trade-off. And also, it's really important to keep in mind that prices, the ceiling rates awarded in the OASIS contract, are only applicable to sole source time and material orders. These are not published prices, not like a schedules program. People cannot ask, well, what are the rates? The only time an ordering contracting officer can verify the rates is if it is sole source time material order. We will look at the rates that the contractor offered at the order level, and we will tell them yes or no, they are at or below the ceiling rates. These are not published rates, folks. These are not published rates. It is very easy to submit your pricing proposal under OASIS. We provide the direct labor rate ranges, and they are mapped to the OMB standard occupational classifications. You submit your indirect rates, and it is a function of math. If you go outside of the parameters detailed in the solicitation, then your rates may not be determined fair and reasonable. And I've seen that happen, folks. I've seen that happen. So just keep in mind, price is go, no go, and it only applies to sole source time and material orders. Your contract rates don't apply to anything else. Anything else. Basis for awards, again, the OASIS contract is completely different than when you're probably accustomed to. So selection will not be based on lowest price technically acceptable or the trade-off process. It is based on the highest technically rated with a fair and reasonable price. All evaluation factors, when combined, are significantly more important than cost price. The highest technically rated fair and reasonable price achieves the objective of awarding contracts to offers of varying core experience in a variety of professional service disciplines. And again, really important, we intend to award without discussions. And we will strictly enforce all proposal submission requirements. So it's that simple, folks. You can see how you score by adding up all of your points. You look to section M.6, that's where the scoring table is. You add up all your points, you see how you score, provided that you have substantiated all your scoring elements with the documentation required in solicitation, and you're within the top 190 or tie with 190, or you're one of the socioeconomic statuses that may be lacking within that top 190, you will receive an award. But you won't receive an award if you violate any of the solicitation requirements or lack supporting documentation. Those are the biggest mistakes I've seen people make, is lacking supporting documentation. Slide number 83, we go through a two-step process. First, we verify that the documents exist. We have a team that goes through and simply verifies that the documents exist. Because the system automatically adds up the scores that the contractors have claimed for scoring. So we look at those, then we verify that the documents exist, then we start the evaluation process, and the evaluation process is simply verifying that those documents actually substantiate the score. You know, both the minimum requirements and then the score. And so it's really that simple. That's why this evaluation methodology works so quickly. Put it this way, folks, the original OASIS contract from solicitation closing to award was approximately 4 months. That is unheard of in a government-wide vehicle of this magnitude. It's unheard of. Anyway, they were able to do that because of the highest technically rated with fair and reasonable price scoring methodology. Screening and evaluation process, slide number 84. Again, we are going to award socioeconomic concerns in each pool, and you can read all about those examples in section M.3H. That's section M.3H. And as I explained earlier, for example, pool 1, top 190, and we only have one hub zone, for example, we'll go down the line and look at the next lowest scoring hub zone and add them until we have at least 3 hub zones. I just use hub zone as an example. Next, slide number 85, proposal submission instructions. Proposals shall be accepted electronically through the OASIS Symphony online proposal system. We will not accept proposals any other way. And it is, of course, the sole responsibility of the offerer to ensure that the electronic files submitted are virus-free and can be opened and read by GSA. All proposal documents shall be submitted in Adobe format with the exception attachment J9. And again, folks, it's your responsibility to make sure that you can get into the Symphony system and adhere to the closing date of June 20th. And pay attention to the FedBizOps and make sure that you're looking at FedBizOps in case there are changes to the closing date. Proposal format instructions. Offers must include their company name and or name abbreviation volume number in the file name. For example, ABC Incorporated file name for Volume 1 SF33 is abc.vol1.sf33.pdf. Failure to follow the submission instructions may result in the offer being ineligible for award. Yeah, another mistake, folks, I see a lot of people make, it makes it difficult for the evaluators, is the names you use. You may use short names for your companies. The names you use don't exactly match the name that is the official legal entity name that is shown in SAM.gov. So make sure when you're filling out documentation, when you're filling out your official solicitation documents, your offer documents, that you ensure the legal entity, the offeror, the legal entity matches the name in SAM. Make sure that it matches your DUNS, your CAGE, all that stuff. It seems like something little, but it can cause you major problems if all of those things do not match. So that, folks, ends my segment. I hope you were informed and learned something from this, and I want to emphasize again that this is not a substitute for the solicitation. This is for information purposes only, and I want to restate that anything that I have stated or omitted shall not be misconstrued as a substitute for the official written solicitation published on FBO. Thank you, folks. Appreciate you listening to this, and have a great day.